Greetings and welcome to the Culture Ward, where we dissect and dismember pop culture in all its forms. Before we begin, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and help us grow the channel. It really means a lot to us. Join the conversation in the comments below, and don't forget to like and share this video if you enjoy the content. Thank you for joining us once again for the weekly wrap-up, where we dive into some recent pop culture news without exerting too much effort. As always, let us know if there's any important stories we missed. Now let's get into it. Once again, I must remind everyone how much I love Star Wars. Since my privileged childhood growing up in the 1980s, I have been a mega fanboy super nerd when it comes to the original trilogy, made up of Star Wars, later subtitled A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Fun, epic, inspirational, these movies blended science fiction and adventure with groundbreaking cinematography and special effects to create a once-in-a-generation pop culture phenomenon that captured the imaginations of countless moviegoers of all ages. While Darth Vader was the epitome of mysterious, menacing, and larger-than-life antagonist, Luke Skywalker was the flawed and unlikely hero, a small-time farm boy that received a call to action and responded, despite being way out of his depth. He was inspirational and aspirational. He was Joe Everyman, plucked from obscurity by fate and his own sense of honor, duty, and loyalty to a cause he was only just beginning to understand. I loved Luke Skywalker. I know Han Solo was supposed to be the cool one, but Luke was the brave and noble one, the self-sacrificing one. And well, he had the Force and a lightsaber, so of course Luke was my favorite, especially in Return of the Jedi when he was basically a superhero. And the mythical allure of Luke Skywalker persisted for decades. Even through the prequel trilogy, the character of Luke remained untouched, unspoiled, completely intact. While the redemption arc of Darth Vader became a little murkier, did he really atone for his sins by killing the Emperor, if his sins included mass child murder? Ah well, that's a question for another time. Alas, Luke's story was unchanged by any of the questionable decisions made by George Lucas in the prequels. It wasn't until 2015, with the release of The Force Awakens, that Luke Skywalker even appeared on screen again, and then only for a few seconds at the very end, setting up a potential new story arc. I have to admit, as much as I've grown to loathe the entire sequel trilogy, at the time I had some hope that Luke's story would have a satisfying second act. It was right there in front of them. Then came that gigantic piece of dog shit that is The Last Jedi. Anyone who knows me knows how much I hate this movie. And one of my primary complaints, besides the nonsensical story, was the deliberate and malicious destruction of the character of Luke Skywalker. From the hero of the original trilogy who spared the life of Darth Vader, believing he still had good in him, to this maniacal asshole who once tried to murder a child because he had a vision and is now a broken old man cowardly living in self-imposed exile and denouncing the Jedi.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. Bullshit.
Mark Hamill, who has played Luke Skywalker since his first appearance in 1977, has likewise been kind of ruined in the past few years. He has basically lost his mind since about 2016 or so for some reason. And while I normally don't care what someone's politics are, one way or the other, Hamill has let it completely infect his mind, and he makes his politics part of everything he does. And it's just really hard to listen to his deranged ramblings anymore.
May the Force be with you. Unless you're MAGA, then you can go force yourself.
We get it. You hate the orange man in the White House. So what? That doesn't make you special. It's freaking boring. However, in his defense, he too was unhappy about the way that Rian Johnson was treating the character of Luke Skywalker. Not unhappy enough to walk away from a paycheck, but I'm not here to attack the man's principles. Not much. But anyway, he did speak publicly about his dissatisfaction with Luke's arc. And I at least appreciate that. Credit where it's due. And very recently, he discussed how he rationalized the dark turn that Luke apparently took leading up to The Last Jedi. So Mark Hamill shares the much, much darker Luke Skywalker backstory he created for The Last Jedi. Did you know that Luke Skywalker had a wife and child? According to Mark Hamill, the Jedi has a tragic backstory that never made it to screen. The Star Wars actor went on NPR's Bullseye with Jesse Thorne as part of a press tour for Mike Flanagan's latest Stephen King adaptation, The Life of Chuck. On the podcast, the pair discussed Luke Skywalker's role in Star Wars The Last Jedi, a version of the character Hamill famously struggled to get behind. The original trilogy actor told Thorne that he created a backstory for Luke that would help him understand the character's actions in the 8th film, The Skywalker Saga. Let's just hope it isn't canon. I can agree with that. So apparently Mark Hamill said, "Can I make up my own backstory of why Luke is the way he is? I don't want to just say, that I have bumped and I have brain damage," Hamill said of a conversation with The Last Jedi director Rian Johnson. He said, talking about Rian Johnson, said, "Yeah, do whatever you want." So Mark Hamill made up a much, much darker backstory that he thought could justify him being the way that he was in the movie. Darker is one word for it. The backstory goes like this.
So I made up a much, much darker backstory that I thought could justify him being that way. So he falls in love with a woman. He gives up being a Jedi. They have a child together. At some point, the child, as a toddler, picks up an unattended lightsaber, pushes the button, and is killed instantly. The wife is so full of grief, she kills herself.
It's not quite the family-friendly tone George Lucas built the franchise on. Well, he did have Anakin Skywalker slaughter a bunch of children, so Hamill said he drew inspiration for the origin from stories of families who leave guns unattended around children in the U.S. It's a tragically common occurrence. In 2025 alone, 87 unintentional shootings by children. In 2023, this number surpassed 400. So he said that resonated with me so deeply, but he, Rian Johnson, didn't have the time to tell a backstory like that, I'm guessing. And that's it. I mean, if I hadn't already lost most of my respect for Mark Hamill already, I would probably be really disappointed with this ridiculous headcanon. How unimaginative. Really? Some ridiculous metaphor for gun control? And you think Luke would have just left his lightsaber laying around? That's what you think of the character? And if he did, you think he would have then blamed the Jedi for it? I get it. Mark Hamill thinks Luke Skywalker is just as dumb and shallow as he is, I guess. Well, it doesn't matter anyway. In my headcanon, the sequel trilogy never happened, and Luke Skywalker never turned into the old, twisted caricature of Mark Hamill that he became. The Skywalker saga ended with the events of Return of the Jedi, and Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill can't ruin what already happened. In my headcanon, Mark Hamill retired from acting in 1985 and was never heard from again, content to be remembered as the hero that saved the galaxy and redeemed Darth Vader, inspiring an entire generation of young dreamers. Shouldn't that be enough? What do you think? How do you feel about Mark Hamill's twisted backstory for Luke Skywalker? Let me know in the comments. In yet more Star Wars-centered news, let's talk about one of the most disappointing projects of the past few years. And I know that's a crowded field. While I acknowledge certain problems and shortcomings of the prequel trilogy, overall I like them. I am an apologist for those movies. The story was strong, the action was strong, and most of the performances were strong. One of the greatest things that came out of the prequel era was Ewan McGregor's role as young Obi Wan Kenobi, who had previously been played by the late Alec Guinness in the original trilogy. Ewan McGregor seemed perfect for the role. He delivered a very satisfying performance, first as Qui-Gon Jinn's Padawan, and then as Anakin's master, with some of the most quotable lines in Star Wars history.
Hello there.
There had been rumblings of an Obi Wan Kenobi movie for years. Supposedly, there was a story being passed around that was set after Revenge of the Sith, where Obi-Wan had to protect young Luke Skywalker from Tusken Raiders or something. It didn't happen though, but the idea of bringing back Obi-Wan wasn't dropped. As far back as August 2019, it was announced that a Kenobi series was in development for Disney+, with Ewan McGregor set to return to play the famed Jedi Master. Now, I was first extremely skeptical, due to the sequel trilogy having just wrapped up, but the success of The Mandalorian gave me some hope, and I really wanted to see Ewan back as Obi-Wan. After some delays, first due to pandemic restrictions, then due to rewrites, the Obi Wan Kenobi series finally premiered on Disney Plus in 2022. Set 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, the series follows Obi-Wan in exile on Tatooine, watching over young Luke Skywalker. Struggling with the fall of the Jedi Order and Anakin's transformation into Darth Vader, Obi-Wan is drawn out of hiding when Leia Organa is kidnapped. He embarks on a mission to rescue her, facing Inquisitors, who are Jedi hunters led by the ruthless Reva, while trying to evade the Empire. The series ostensibly explores Obi-Wan's emotional journey, his confrontations with Vader, and his efforts to protect the Skywalker children, culminating in a climactic duel that tests his resolve and hope for the future. It should have been really good. While there was so much promise to this series, I hate to say that the finished product was pretty awful. Despite a decent performance by Ewan McGregor, as well as the welcome return of Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader, the nonsensical plot, annoying characters, and terrible writing made this show almost unbearable to get through. I mean, the main gripe is that Obi-Wan is essentially relegated to a side character in his own show, with much of the plot focused on the story of Reva, the diverse yet poorly defined Jedi hunter, and her lame arc toward the light side. And what is this Disney habit of having people who are impaled by lightsabers just walking it off? Remember when that used to be fatal? I guess Qui-Gon was just a pussy. And when the show does occasionally focus on Obi-Wan, he acts completely different than his character from the films. He's indecisive, weak, subservient, and, perhaps most clearly, dumb. Remember this scene when he has to try to get through this gate when he could have very clearly just walked around it?
Dum 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 dum.
Obi-Wan gets led around by a 10-year-old girl and finds himself in difficult situations that he only survives due to some deus ex machina, such as the resistance fighter that keeps showing up out of nowhere at the perfect moment to save his ass. And then there was this ridiculous scene of him sneaking Leia out of the Imperial building under his coat. I mean, who's buying this? At any rate, while there was some promise and a few glimpses of what could have been a much better show, ultimately it fell very flat. There were several instances that totally broke continuity, such as 10-year-old Luke Skywalker being chased by a villain with a lightsaber, and then 8 years later not remembering ever having seen one. And the story, the plot itself, of Reva plotting and scheming for a decade, hunting, slaughtering Jedi as well as innocent men, women, and children, just to get close to Darth Vader to get revenge on him for killing Jedi, innocent men, women, and children. It's just so...
Dum 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 dum.
Anyway, that show left the fandom split. Casual fans seal-clapped at the nostalgia bait.
Hello there.
And critics, aka the Access Media, praised Disney Lucasfilm like sycophants. However, a large part of the audience was much less positive. And of course, anyone who complained about the many serious issues with the show were summarily branded as racists, no debate. What, you think the show fundamentally changed several characters, including Obi-Wan, Leia, and Luke, and it broke continuity with the original trilogy? You must be a racist. And it frankly left a bad taste in people's mouth about the show, the showrunners, Disney Lucasfilm, and even the actors that lashed out at fans.
You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
But then it quickly disappeared from the public consciousness and was relegated to the dung heap that is Disney Star Wars content.
That is one big pile of shit.
No doubt to be forgotten and buried forever. Right? It has been 3 years now without any real talk about this show or its potential future. Ewan McGregor has made a few comments in interviews about being open to returning to the role, as has Hayden Christensen, but no buzz about any Obi-Wan projects in development. Well, until now. So Obi Wan Kenobi Season 2 finally gets a positive update from Ewan McGregor. Obi-Wan, that's a name I haven't heard in a long, long time. 2 years to be precise, as Star Wars fans far and wide have been clamoring for more Obi Wan Kenobi following the dramatic conclusion of Season 1, even though the show was originally intended as a limited series. One of those fans is none other than old Ben Kenobi himself, Ewan McGregor, who has been advocating for more stories about Obi-Wan ever since Season 1 ended. Lucasfilm has been largely silent on another season of Obi Wan Kenobi, but if recent comments from Ewan McGregor are to be believed, a second season has never been closer. McGregor recently made an appearance at the recent LA Comic-Con where he officially confirmed that Lucasfilm is exploring ideas for a second season of Obi Wan Kenobi. It's a small but significant step for the show's potential return, as it clearly implies that real discussions between McGregor and Lucasfilm have taken place. It may still not be an official green light for Season 2, but it's the most positive update a follow-up to Obi Wan Kenobi has gotten since its release. His statement is as follows. One idea for a continuation is obviously between the end of the Obi Wan Kenobi series and when Alec Guinness's Obi Wan Kenobi, there's got to be another few stories in there, and we're definitely hoping, well, exploring that, I think would be the word to say. McGregor also went on to explain some things he'd like to see should a second season of Obi-Wan be given the go-ahead. One such element was a chance to see the live-action Obi-Wan in his armored look from Star Wars The Clone Wars, which Hayden Christensen got the chance to do with Anakin Skywalker's appearance in Ahsoka. Speaking of Christensen, McGregor also shared that he would love to work with his longtime prequel trilogy co-star again, even if it's through more flashbacks to the Clone Wars. The Disney Star Wars shows are in an odd state of affairs. Obi Wan Kenobi Season 2 could be just what Disney Plus needs for exclusive Star Wars content, as the future of the franchise is a bit uncertain as of now. Sure, we still have the second season of Andor and Ahsoka to look forward to, but the cancellation of The Acolyte and the rumored scrapping of The Mandalorian Season 4 in favor of The Mandalorian and Grogu leaves the franchise in an odd spot. Hopefully McGregor and fans' wishes will come true and we'll be able to say hello there to one of Star Wars' most beloved characters yet again. So that's it. I know it's not much, and probably won't amount to much either. There are so many reported shows, movies, projects in the pipeline at Lucasfilm, most of which are delayed, shelved, paused, or in early development, that an unannounced sequel to a divisive Disney Plus series 3 years after the first season ended is probably not high on anyone's priority list. Even if that changes in the very near future, it would be at least another 2+ years before anything happens with it, and that would be, a 5-year gap between seasons 1 and 2? Now, the perpetual optimist in me whispers that maybe a new showrunner, with even a shred of appreciation for the source material, could come along and redeem the first season, and make the Obi Wan Kenobi show that OG fans have been craving for 2 decades. And wouldn't that be awesome? But then the realist in me is always slapping the shit out of that other guy and telling him to stop being so stupid. Obi-Wan's character was ruined, and it's probably going to stay that way. Disney Star Wars' message is always the same. You'll take what we give you and you'll like it. Or you're a racist. What about you? What did you think of the original Obi Wan Kenobi show on Disney Plus? Do you think they'll make a season 2? Let us know in the comments. Scarlett Johansson, famously attractive Hollywood superstar who's been active in film since the early 1990s. She recently spent a decade in the Marvel Cinematic Universe playing Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, earning the adoration of fans worldwide and no doubt millions of dollars to go with it. And currently, she's headlining the latest Jurassic World movie, Rebirth, which just hit theaters this weekend, and again, I'm sure she got paid many millions to star in this multi-billion-dollar franchise. Before her career pivot to action heroine that began in 2010's Iron Man 2, though, she was already known as a talented, serious, and versatile actress. She has played in multiple genres, multiple archetypes, and multiple character studies throughout her career, and has been paid and received accolades accordingly. Her films have grossed over $14.5 billion, making her one of the highest-grossing actors in history. She was the highest-paid actress in the world in 2018 and 2019. And she's won multiple awards and nominations, including a BAFTA Award, nominations for Academy Awards and Golden Globes. She is, in other words, a bona fide superstar, one of the most famous and successful women ever in the film industry. But apparently she has regrets. The actress, now 40 years old, has recently been lamenting that some of her earlier roles catered to the dreaded male gaze. Let's take a look. Scarlett Johansson recalls, quote, a lot of female roles centering the male gaze early in her career. From her child actor beginnings to her MCU days and beyond, Scarlett Johansson has noticed a shift in Hollywood for women. The 2-time Oscar nominee recently explained that some of the on-screen opportunities she's seen in recent years have represented, quote, a different time for young women in the industry, moving away from roles that center the male gaze. The messaging is different. There are many more role models. Women are visible in powerful positions, and the opportunities I have had to play women who don't have to just be one thing or another have increased, she told The Times. But when I was younger, a lot of the roles I was offered or I went in for had their ambitions or character arcs revolving around their own desirability or the male gaze or a male-centered story, added Johansson. That is less frequent, though. Something has shifted. Johansson made her film debut at age 9 in North, 1994, having since starred in such films as The Horse Whisperer in 1998, Ghost World in 2001, Lost in Translation in 2003, and her decade-long run in the MCU that culminated with her solo outing in 2021's Black Widow. She can currently be seen in Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme, now in theaters, as well as Jurassic World Rebirth, premiering July 2nd. And she also made her featured directorial debut with Eleanor the Great, which had its world premiere last month at Cannes. Isn't it ironic that a person who has built an empire using her physical beauty when she was young is now calling out the industry for allowing such a thing to happen as she ages up? No other women after her should get rich and famous for being pretty. It's wrong, and it needs to stop. At least she acknowledges that Hollywood has been changing in recent years, and that attractive people aren't always getting the roles anymore. They are decentering the male gaze. And thankfully, correlation doesn't equal causation, because Hollywood has also been losing money hand over fist in recent years too. I'm sure it's not related. This reminds me of when Peter Dinklage, the most famous dwarf in the entertainment industry, decried the use of dwarves in movies about dwarves before the live-action Snow White was released, effectively eliminating at least 7 great jobs for dwarf actors.
It makes no sense to me. You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the fuck are you doing, man?
I mean, my biggest thing is he wants to be progressive, and it's all about progression, and I support that completely. But the issue is him being progressive is eliminating 7 potential dream jobs from the dwarf acting community.
These fucking people, they capitalize on a trait that they possess, make a fortune, build a portfolio, and then pull the ladder up behind them so no one else can take the same path they took. But more importantly, what the fuck does the male gaze even mean? When did the biological fact of human physical attraction become such a burden on society? When ScarJo says she was given roles that cater to the male gaze, what she's really saying is that she played characters who are attractive, in a role about people who find each other attractive. And she was given the role because she is, you guessed it, attractive. What are they supposed to do? Just stop making movies about human sexuality? I guess. Because here's the other thing. People like watching pretty people. Not just men, but women, gay people, old people, young people, ugly people, and pretty people. Everyone likes to see pretty people. That's why leading women and men are usually attractive. This has always been the case. For as long as civilization has existed, the golden ratio is represented throughout human history and art, architecture, even in nature. It's pleasing to see pleasant-looking people, and that fact will not change because women feel they're being objectified. Because here's the other thing. You are objectified. If you're an actor or a model or an entertainer, you are literally an object that people pay money to see. The good news is that it's not discriminatory, it's unbiased, it applies to women and men equally. It's why we don't usually see overweight homely fellows playing action heroes. Remember this scene from Thor Love and Thunder?
And flick! Oh, you flick too hard, damn it!
Well, maybe not, since nobody remembers Thor Love and Thunder. The point is, every one of the male superheroes in the MCU is a good-looking guy, in pretty great shape. Should they complain about the female gaze? Should people like Jason Alexander or Wayne Knight or Jack Black be cast as Thor and Captain America? Should we ignore the fact that men are attracted to women, women are attracted to men, and everyone is attracted to attractive people? In other words, do we ignore human biology and evolution for the sake of equal representation? I guess we can try. See how it works out for you in Hollywood. Or, keep seeing how it works out for you. What do you think? Is it time to stamp out the male gaze in entertainment and cast more ugly people in leading roles? Let us know what you think in the comments. Well, that brings us to the end of this installment of the weekly wrap-up here in the Culture Ward. What did you think of the news stories? Are there any other stories that you want us to delve into next time? Let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye for now. We hope to see you next time in the Culture Ward.